What unfolds when a CEO boards the same early morning bus as his employees, remaining incognito to all around him? Nathan Nolan occupied a seat at the rear of the bustling city bus, clad in steel-toed boots, a worn hoodie, and thick glasses. Perched on his nose, the disguise was impressive. He had dedicated an entire hour in front of the mirror to perfect it. He would be unrecognizable to most as the 42-year-old leader of the family-owned transportation business that operated 13 city routes throughout the area. 3 years ago, he took over the company that his father had built. On paper, ridership was performing well, stability was evident, and profits were consistent. However, recently there was an unsettling feeling in the air. Concerns were escalating, drivers were resigning with increasing frequency, and middle managers continued to provide the same ambiguous responses: challenges with personnel, congestion on the roads, mistakes made by drivers. Nathan had yet to encounter the majority of the drivers. The organization was large enough that individuals presumed he was merely another recent addition to the team. Communication primarily flowed through district managers and supervisors at the store level. The bus depot on 8th Street buzzed with activity, yet he had never once stepped inside. He felt it was the moment to discover the truth firsthand. That morning, the driver was a woman by the name of Gina Ellery, in her mid-30s, with a sleek ponytail and a determined gaze fixed on the road ahead. She offered a soft good morning to every rider, including those who chose to overlook her. Nathan stepped onto the vehicle, feigning an adjustment of his backpack, and offered her a brief nod. "The newcomer?" she inquired, casting a look at him in the reflection. "Indeed, I began yesterday. Dispatch mentioned I should ride along with you today," Nathan said, his tone relaxed and easygoing. Gina refrained from inquiring further. She was bound by a timetable. They departed at 6:12 a.m. Keen. At 6:23 they found themselves trailing by 3 minutes. A vehicle was double parked in a loading zone, necessitating a detour for them. Then the construction began. Then, a rider in a wheelchair required additional time to board. Gina managed everything with grace, providing updates over the intercom, expressing regret for the wait, and maintaining her professionalism. However, Nathan observed something different. She appeared weary, not only in a physical sense but also exhausted on a more profound level. She hardly sipped her coffee. Her shoulders felt tense. Whenever the radio emitted the supervisor's voice, she recoiled just a bit. Upon arriving at the depot at 7:15, they found themselves almost 10 minutes behind schedule. Gina brought the bus to a stop, allowing the final passengers to disembark, and let out a deep sigh. A figure loomed by the office entrance, arms folded across his chest. Elegant footwear, clipboard grasped firmly. Nathan had not encountered him previously. "Ellery," the man exclaimed sharply once more. "This marks the third occurrence this week." Gina descended, brushing her hands against her uniform. Construction was underway. "I'm done with excuses." The man interrupted her. "You drivers always find a way to point fingers at everyone else instead of taking responsibility. Begin sooner. Navigate with intelligence. It's quite manageable." Nathan felt a knot in his stomach. He lingered a short distance, off, feigning interest in his phone while attentively eavesdropping. There was a vehicle obstructing the... Gina made another attempt, then come to a conclusion. "You are experts in your field, behave accordingly," the man shouted. "If I encounter this once more tomorrow, don't count on holding on to your shift." Nathan had reached his limit. "Hey," he said, taking a step closer. She didn't arrive late out of choice, the man pivoted. "And who might you be? I've just begun. They invited me to join the journey, yet I witnessed the entire scene. Construction, obstructed lanes, and delays beyond her command." The man let out a derisive laugh. "You've just arrived, newcomer. Refrain from instructing me on how to manage my team." Nathan inclined his head with deliberation. "All right, may I know your name?" "Matt, the route manager for 8th Street." Nathan simply gazed at him. It's reassuring to have that information. Gina appeared perplexed, adjusting her stance. She cast a fleeting look at Nathan before shifting her. "Gaze back to Matt. Prepare the next bus for departure." Matt lashed out at her. "You have 5 minutes. Gina departed in silence. Nathan trailed behind her into the break room. Gina filled her mug with a steaming brew of coffee. She cast a glance at Nathan. "Is he always this way?" Nathan inquired. After a moment of uncertainty, she gave a slight nod. "Indeed, it's all inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. If we arrive late, we take full responsibility." Nathan surveyed the room, his gaze drifting over the details that filled the space. A single microwave, a single coffee machine, 2 damaged chairs, a pile of newspapers that have been sitting for a week. There is no one else present. "How long have you been here?" "Half a decade. I once cherished it, but not anymore." She gave a slight shrug. "It seems as though we are merely digits." Nathan had a wealth of thoughts swirling in his mind, yet he held back, choosing silence over expression. Not at this moment. He craved a deeper understanding. That evening, he returned to his modest, rented apartment on the other side of town. No one had any idea he held the position of CEO, not even Gina. He would maintain the status quo for the time being. Tomorrow, he would embark on a journey with a new driver. He sensed that the situation would deteriorate before it improved. Nathan arrived the following morning at 5:50 a.m., a full 15 minutes ahead of his scheduled ride-along. This time, he chose not to enter the depot. He lingered by the outdoor employee lot, hands tucked into his pockets, observing the flurry of activity that marked the early morning preparations. Engines rumbling to life, operators adjusting their reflections, a voice rising in urgency over a lost clipboard. He went largely unnoticed by those around him. A tall, sturdy figure in his 50s stepped out from one of the maintenance bays. He carried a thermos, exuding an air of effortless familiarity, as if this task had been second nature to him for ages. Nathan identified him from the shift sheet as Carl Mendoza, the driver assigned to Route 12, which included a combination of commercial stops and underserved residential neighborhoods. Today, he was instructed to follow his lead. "Are you the temporary staff?" Carl inquired, his pace unwavering as he drew near. Nathan remarked that it was meant to be. "Dispatch has instructed you to adhere to your designated route today." Carl offered a brief nod. "Stay on track. Route 12 is relentless and unyielding." They stepped onto the bus without a word. Carl swiftly yet meticulously completed his pre-checks: mirrors, blinkers, brakes, and emergency kit. He gestured towards a clipboard affixed to the dashboard, its surface adorned with hasty notes and time markings. He mentioned a run sheet. "Disregard the majority of it. Many of those stops remain unchanged since the new zoning was implemented last year." Nathan cast a fleeting look at the paper. At least 4 listed stops were marked out, with handwritten replacements noted below. He committed it to memory. As they exited the lot, Carl inclined a bit closer to him. He explained the process clearly. "Remain still, avoid any contact, and if a rider becomes confrontational, refrain from acting bravely. Simply activate the alert." Nathan acknowledged with a nod and settled into the seat behind him. The initial hour unfolded with little to note. A handful of regulars were gathered at the South Industrial Loop, night shift workers making their way home, many of them half asleep. Carl acknowledged them with a grunt or a nod. He was concise in his speech, yet as they approached Hawthorne and Fifth, a tight residential stretch with a sharp left bend, Carl reduced his speed to a near stop. A silver sedan sat parked in violation of the rules at the corner, obstructing the bus's turn and forcing it to navigate perilously close to the curb. "Not this one again," Carl muttered. He blasted the horn twice, forceful and prolonged. Silence. "Did you ever report that?" Nathan asked softly. "Weekly. They haul it away once and then it reappears the following day. The city claims it falls outside of our jurisdiction. Management advises to record it and proceed forward." Carl cautiously maneuvered the bus, inching it forward as he skillfully approached the narrow turn. The rear tires grazed the curb, resulting in a sudden jolt of the bus. A woman at the back muttered a curse softly to herself. At the next stop, a man clad in a tattered denim jacket boarded the vehicle, clutching a sheet of paper adorned with her printed barcode. Carl examined it closely, then hesitated. "This is not good," he remarked. "What seems to be the problem?" Nathan inquired. "Pass for transfer. It originates from yesterday. Out of date. The man raised his gaze. They assured me this would be effective today, and Carl didn't dispute it. He passed the man a tiny piece of paper from behind the dashboard. Simply grab a new one tomorrow. The next time they attempt to hand you an outdated day pass, instruct them to reach out to dispatch. After the man took his seat, Carl shifted his attention back to Nathan. Many individuals traveling this route often find themselves without clear responses from the ticket office. They distribute false information as if it were a treat, leaving us to deal with the aftermath. Nathan maintained a calm facade, yet the emerging pattern was unmistakable. Fragmented dialogue, overlooked documentation, antiquated resources. The drivers weren't failing. They were adapting to a system that offered them no support. At 9:40 a.m., they returned to the depot. Carl pulled into the parking spot, meticulously completed his mileage report, and extended his arms in a satisfying stretch. "Who is that fellow in the blue tie frequently loitering near the lockers?" Nathan inquired. Wearing a blue tie, Ray serves as the assistant ops lead, having previously driven routes. Now he merely observes others laboring, convinced of his superiority because he no longer needs to guide the way. Nathan rested against the ajar door. "Does he ever ride the routes?" Carl gave a slight shake of his head. "He hasn't been recognized, even once since his promotion. Should he notice you engaging in excessive conversation, he'll likely conclude that you're not putting in the effort." Nathan offered a soft expression of gratitude and descended. Within the confines of the depot, he made his way to the locker area, recalling the sight of Ray from earlier. A man leaned casually against a filing cabinet, his eyes focused on the screen of his phone as he scrolled through its contents. "Good morning," Nathan remarked. Ray kept his gaze fixed downward. "Did you misplace something or what?" "Seeking dispatch services." Carl mentioned to follow up after the route. Ray finally turned, his gaze towards him. "Being with Mendoza is a fortunate situation. He rarely engages with most temporary staff," I observed. Ray squinted his eyes just a bit. "How long will you be here?" "A week or two," Nathan mentioned. "Stay focused and keep your composure. Steer clear of matters that don't concern you." Nathan nodded, slowly, and strolled away, though he didn't venture far. He slipped into a maintenance corridor and paused, holding his breath. Shortly after, Ray strolled by, engrossed in his phone. Once he departed, Nathan quietly entered the operations office. It was open. Within the space were two desks positioned closely together. One was filled with route maps, a malfunctioning printer, and a half-finished cup of coffee. The other untouched. A partially filled whiteboard displayed shift changes and notes for drivers. Nathan glanced over it swiftly. Beside Gina's name, beneath Wednesday, a note had been inscribed. "Once more, 7 minutes behind schedule. This is your last notice." He snapped a picture of the board with his phone and departed. By Friday, he had journeyed alongside 3 additional drivers. Every path presented unique hurdles, construction setbacks, doors that refused to cooperate, and a fare scanner that was out of order. One bus lacked heating. Another featured a flickering overhead light that left passengers clearly uneasy. Yet what resonated most wasn't the gear, it was the stillness. No one smiled. No one appeared to take pride. The operators were precise, effective, and devoid of any notion that their existence extended beyond ensuring the next destination was reached punctually. Casual conversation was infrequent. The spirit was not as high as he had expected. On Friday afternoon, Nathan made his way back to the break room. This time, 2 other drivers sat at the table. A youthful woman clad in a vibrant green vest, accompanied by an older gentleman who walks with a limp. Neither acknowledged his presence as he stepped inside. Gina entered a moment later, her uniform soaked from the rain outside. "Hey," Nathan said, rising to his feet. She removed her gloves and took a seat. "You're still present, still absorbing knowledge," she gave a faint smile. "That's amusing. Typically, most temporary workers don't stick around for more than a week." He inquired about the turnover. "Quite unfortunate," she remarked. "New drivers undergo 2 weeks of training, only to leave after just 1. We find ourselves lacking sufficient staff nearly every day." "Why do you stay?" Gina asked, leaning back in her chair. With 2 kids to care for, rent to pay, and the desire to avoid starting anew elsewhere, it's a tough choice. Nathan inclined his head with a measured, deliberate gesture. What could enhance it? She looked at him. I'm uncertain. Perhaps there's someone in a higher position who is truly paying attention. However, they do not traverse these paths. They merely observe the figures. Nathan remained silent. There was no necessity for him to do so. As he departed the depot that evening, he had heard more than enough. He walked past Matt, the same manager, who had reprimanded Gina earlier in the week. Matt shared a hearty laugh with Ray by the vending machines. Once more she found herself in tears in the break room, Ray remarked, while Matt merely shrugged. If she is unable to manage pressure, this may not be the right place for her. Nathan came to a halt. Matt remarked that she's been tardy nearly every day. I'm indifferent to her having 6 children and a flat tire. This isn't a babysitting service, Ray chuckled while Nathan remained silent. He pivoted and made his way to the employee lot, hands balled into fists within the confines of his jacket pockets. The barriers were about to be lifted, and by tomorrow he would reclaim his true self. On Saturday morning, Nathan made his way to the 8th Street Depot shortly after 6, this time without any disguise. He donned a dark blazer, crisp jeans, and the same boots he had worn earlier in the week, a quiet acknowledgement of the time he had invested in them. He neither brought a camera crew nor called a meeting. He entered through the front, moving past, the wall adorned with worn safety posters and the bulletin board that appeared to go unnoticed, making his way directly to the operations office. Within the confines of the room, Ray lifted his gaze from his desk, his body coming to an abrupt halt. Matt lingered at the rear, arms folded, nursing a half-finished cup of coffee. Nathan maintained a calm demeanor. Please join me in the conference room, both of you. At that moment, Matt blinked while Nathan maintained his gaze. Nathan chewed thoughtfully, Ray's brow knitted in concern. Then he turned pale, while Matt let out a strained chuckle. Hold on. You're the owner's child, and Nathan didn't respond. He strolled by them, pushed open the door to the side room featuring a dusty whiteboard and a coffee-stained table, and paused. As they stepped inside, he gestured towards the chairs. Take a seat. In silence, Nathan closed the door behind them. I've spent the entire week here, he remarked, traversing routes, lounging in break rooms. With a thoughtful demeanor, Matt reclined in his chair, arms crossed. It seems you have some inquiries. Nathan declared that he possessed facts. I observed a driver facing the possibility of being fired for arriving just 7 minutes late due to a construction delay. I witnessed a manager overlook multiple reports regarding a blocked intersection. I overheard 2 supervisors making light of a situation involving a driver who was in tears in the break room. Ray adjusted his position in the chair. That was misinterpreted. Nathan maintained the same tone. No, it wasn't, Matt corrected himself. We find ourselves in a challenging situation, with deadlines looming and time constraints pressing upon us. If we allow everyone to get away with things, the entire operation crumbles. Nathan approached with deliberate intent. This isn't about giving people a free pass. It's about establishing a fair system that doesn't disadvantage them. You have overlooked maintenance requests and have not addressed city issues appropriately. Instead of delving into the issues, you've opted for warnings, Ray interjected. There are an overwhelming number of routes and a shortage of personnel. We are striving to give our utmost effort. Nathan gave a single nod. In that case, seeking assistance would have been wise. Instead, you concealed grievances and held the drivers accountable. Matt's expression grew somber. I have been engaged in this profession for many years. Don't waltz in here after a week and dictate how I should manage my team. Nathan maintained a steady tone. This team belongs to me, and as of today you will no longer be a part of it. Matt sprang to his feet. You're letting me go? Indeed, Nathan replied. In effect, right away. Ray remained motionless, while Nathan glanced over at him. You are currently under probation and will be reporting directly to me for the next 30 days. Any further actions resembling what I observed, and you'll be gone as well. Ray nodded slowly, his jaw clenched in understanding. Nathan exited the room, not pausing for further words. In the hallway, he encountered Gina, clad in her uniform, making her way to her locker. She caught sight of him and halted in her tracks. "You're the owner," she remarked, her surprise outweighing any anger. He gave a slight nod. "I exist." She cast her gaze downward for a moment, then lifted it once more. "Why didn't you speak up? Had I seen it, the truth would have remained hidden from me." They strolled side by side toward the dispatch area. "Gina," he remarked, "I owe you an apology. You've been toiling away in challenging circumstances." She averted her gaze, a flush of embarrassment creeping over her. "I simply carry out my responsibilities, that's clear. And that's precisely why I require your assistance," she said with a frown. "With what, exactly?" "Improving this space." In the dispatch room, Nathan summoned everyone for a meeting, relying solely on word of mouth, without any announcements or formal notices. In just 20 minutes, the conference room filled with drivers, route planners and mechanics, some still clad in their jackets, others enjoying a cup of coffee. Nathan positioned himself at the forefront. "Many of you may not be familiar with who I am. I am Nathan Nolan. I have held the position of CEO for 3 years now." A couple of gazes shifted. A voice from the back murmured, "That was the temp," Nathan went on. "This week I experienced your buses, navigated your routes, and spent time in your break rooms. I've observed your struggles, and I can't say I'm pleased with what I uncovered." Silence enveloped the room. "We have malfunctioning scanners, outdated schedules, and obstructed turns that remain unresolved. You've faced accusations for issues beyond your control." "That comes to a close now," he paused. "Matt has departed from the company. Ray is currently being evaluated, but this process goes beyond merely letting individuals go. It's about reconstructing the framework that let you down." A hand was raised in the center. Carl, the seasoned driver, was the one in question. "What will be different?" he inquired. Initially, Nathan announced that a specialized maintenance triage team would be assigned to this depot. All urgent matters such as brakes, doors and heating are recorded, monitored and addressed within a 24-hour time frame. Say goodbye to long waits. On the other hand, the younger woman wearing the green vest. "What's the situation with the blocked turns such as Hawthorne and Fifth? I have already reached out to the city's transportation department. We will provide images and records of each traffic blockage. If no action is taken, we will take our concerns to the mayor's office." She nodded. Slowly, taken aback, Nathan surveyed his surroundings. "Next, I am establishing a driver advisory board consisting of 3 individuals from this depot selected by you. We will have monthly meetings to identify issues, suggest changes, and ensure accountability." A soft wave of whispers flowed through the space. Nathan gestured toward the rear. "From now on, each route manager will need to ride at least one route every week. There will be no exceptions. If they are unaware of your challenges, they should not hold a position of leadership." A seasoned mechanic lifted his hand. "What are the plans for staffing? We're lacking coverage for nearly every shift." Nathan gave a slight nod. "Next week we will kick off a recruitment initiative, along with referral bonuses for employees who successfully refer a qualified driver. Increasing the number of hires leads to a reduction in double shifts and a more energized workforce." The room remained silent, yet there was a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Less guarded and more aware, Nathan completed his task. "It's not possible to resolve all issues in a single night. However, I assure you of this. I will not return to managing this company from a desk." He took a step back. "I will remain here today. If you have a message to convey, reach out to me. I am here to listen." The group started to exit gradually, with some offering nods while others appeared deep in thought. Silence reigns, devoid of cheers or grins. Yet, a change was beginning to unfold. Later that afternoon, Nathan settled onto a bench by the south lot, reviewing a list of flagged buses. Gina walked over, cradling 2 steaming cups of coffee in her hands. She offered him one. "I'm not sure if this makes a difference," she remarked. "Not immediately." "It doesn't," Nathan replied. "Yet it initiates a journey." She took a seat next to him. "Ray continues to observe us as if we're plotting to take the steering wheels," she remarked. "I understand. He's been put on alert. At this moment I find myself observing him." She gazed at the lined-up buses. "You chose a challenging starting point." Nathan savored a sip. "It's the realm of authenticity," They lingered in that position for some time. Silence speaks volumes. Within the depot, a fresh sign was being installed close to the time clock, straightforward and displayed in bold black letters. Each voice matters. Taking the wheel on this journey means you define the path ahead. For the first time in months, the stillness within the depot resonated not with defeat, but with a sense of possibility. It seemed as though something was poised to take action. By Monday morning, the depot had an unmistakable sharpness to it, not louder, not busier, just more aware. A subtle realization swept through the group that the leader had been present, not merely observing but making choices. The atmosphere was charged with uncertainty, a palpable shift from the usual acceptance that lingered before. It was more nuanced than aspiration, yet more powerful than routine. Nathan arrived back ahead of schedule, accompanied by a new operations advisor from headquarters, a logistics specialist named Trina, who had recently transferred from their Uptown branch. Her tone was direct. She paired high tops with slacks, and she showed no interest in pretending to be an observer. She was present to mend. She remarked to Nathan as they walked through the workshop that the depots lacked a functional escalation process. Operators communicate issues to supervisors. Managers tend to overlook it or file it away in a binder that gathers dust. Many of these buses are struggling to navigate their routes. They've adjusted, Nathan remarked. Trina responded that they ought not to have to. The initial alteration was one of structure. A traditional dry erase board displaying the shift schedule has been upgraded to a digital screen that provides real-time route updates, maintenance alerts, and driver notes. Drivers can now report issues directly to the system using their ID badges. Trina set up a rolling monitor station in the depot break room, ensuring that everyone could easily view the current priorities. Nothing would fade into silence again, yet it wasn't merely instruments that required mending. On a late Tuesday afternoon, a driver by the name of Marcus entered Nathan's office. Slender, elongated figure, gaze weary yet keen. Nathan had caught a glimpse of him the previous week, yet their paths had not crossed in conversation. Marcus refrained from taking a seat. Nathan nodded, indicating he had a moment to spare. "What thoughts are swirling in your head?" Marcus cast a quick look over his shoulder at the ajar door before entering and shutting it firmly behind him. "There's a crucial detail you ought to be aware of. Concerning the training coordinator, Vince. Nathan placed his pen aside. Proceed. He subtly encourages new hires to leave, not in an official capacity, but he certainly makes it clear who is accepted and who is not." "How so?" Marcus maintained a hushed tone. He assigned the most challenging mock routes to the last two drivers he trained, both of whom were women, one black and one Filipino. Didn't provide any guidance on logging electronic reports, just told them to figure it out like everyone else. One of them left during her second week. The other departed in tears after he remarked that she'd never endure with that accent. Nathan took his time before replying. He flipped open his laptop, fingers dancing across the keys, then glanced up. "Have you mentioned this previously?" Marcus let out a humorless chuckle. "To whom?" "Vince handles the evaluations, along with Ray. He only reaches out if someone fails to show up for their shift." Nathan rose to his feet. "What is Vince up to these days?" "Training bay. A new guy has arrived today." Nathan acted without hesitation. He strolled along the expanse of the depot floor, gliding by two maintenance lifts before entering the training bay. Vince leaned casually against the front of a parked bus, arms crossed, engaged in conversation with a young man in uniform. The Mai trainee stood rigidly, nodding with excessive haste. "Vince," Nathan remarked. The man pivoted, a man in his late 40s, sporting close-cropped hair and holding a clipboard under one arm. He lifted an eyebrow in curiosity. Vince remarked that this side isn't typically where you stroll. Nathan remained silent. "Please come to my office. Is it possible to postpone this? I'm at the midpoint." "Negative." At this moment, Vince trailed behind in silence. Upon returning to the office, Nathan shut the door and gestured toward a chair. He instructed, "Do not take a seat. Your time here will be brief." Vince's expression flickered. "Beg your pardon? I've come across reliable accounts of biased conduct during training. intentional oversight, verbal abuse, and deliberate undermining of new employees. That's absurd. Who made that statement? Nathan moved in closer. It's of no consequence. Your actions have fostered an environment that feels unsafe for employees. This warrants instant dismissal. Vince let out a derisive laugh. Are you really going to trust the opinions of some inexperienced newcomers over someone with 10 years of expertise? I am listening to the accounts of those who have faced injustice. I have verified it through multiple accounts. It's over, Vince. Vince parted his lips, only to seal them once more. He pivoted and departed in silence. Nathan lingered in the office, allowing the heaviness of the moment to envelop him. Some choices weren't challenging. They simply required an excessive amount of time to reach. That evening, he strolled through the break room once more. 2 of the chairs were swapped out. The bulletin board now showcased a dynamic schedule of route modifications and municipal work notifications. The neglected piles of paperwork had vanished. "Hey!" a voice called from behind him. He glanced over to find Gina massaging her shoulder with one hand. Her jacket was completely drenched. The rain began to fall just as her shift was coming to a close. "You all right?" he asked, making his way over. She retrieved a neatly folded slip from her back pocket and passed it to him. A printed version of the updated route adjustment for Hawthorne and 5th was available. The city has at last given the green light for temporary signage and enforcement regarding illegal parking. This morning, she mentioned that they put up a tow zone sign. It likely frightened him away. For the first time in 6 months, I navigated that corner without grazing the curb. Nathan gazed upon it. "This solution isn't lasting." "No," she replied. "However, this is the first one that wasn't derived from a lecture." Gina moved on swiftly. She acknowledged and departed in the days that followed. The transformation started to spread beyond their initial point. Carl, the seasoned veteran, found himself appointed to the new advisory board through a subtle consensus among his colleagues. He did not actively seek it out. He simply arrived and paid attention while others shared their thoughts. His initial movement was straightforward. Make certain that no driver is assigned more than 3 consecutive late shifts without a break. The board reached a unanimous decision in favor of it. By Friday, 2 new trainees had arrived, both of whom had previously exited the program midway. This time, Marcus was tasked with overseeing their onboarding process. He remained mostly silent, merely tweaking the mirrors on the training bus before instructing them to take control of the wheel. By the end of the week, Trina had meticulously compiled a comprehensive report. The depot's dysfunction stemmed from overdue maintenance logs, staffing gaps, and misaligned route planning. However, her ultimate suggestion lacked a technical aspect. "Continue to be present," she advised Nathan, "not just once a year, nor merely for a photo opportunity. Consistent. Stillness." "Indeed," he nodded. The following Monday, Nathan joined Gina, once more for the early route, not in disguise, unmasked. In that moment, she refrained from posing any questions to him. There was no necessity for her to do so. He positioned himself behind her seat, observing as she gestured for a child to board the bus, the backpack still damp from the morning's rush, before deftly maneuvering the vehicle around a narrow bend. With skillful ease, she stole a quick look in the rearview mirror, just enough to catch his gaze. "Are you still working on repairs?" she inquired. "I am making an effort." "Excellent," she remarked. "Simply keep going when the silence returns." He remained silent. He wouldn't need to return to the depot. The sign near the time clock had been refreshed with a new line beneath the original motto. Consistent, strong wording, unwavering straightforwardness. If it holds significance for one of us, it holds significance for all of us. Silence, please. There are no banners. It was merely a facility that functioned slightly more efficiently than it had the previous week, and there were no tears shed in the break room to gain attention.